Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to zoom in and focus in on a great viewer question that we got in actually a couple weeks ago. And that is to discuss a relationship with a narcissist, a malignant narcissist, a covert narcissist, psychopath, someone who is manipulative. It's becoming very difficult, and you feel that you are disconnected from this individual, namely someone who is in the Z generation or the Millennial Generation. You know, if you're older, if you're a mother, a grandmother, a grandfather, and you have, young teenagers in their 20s, in their early 30s, you might realize that a lot of these people have grown up in the information age. So the degree and rapidity with which they have access to the, information, and then the pursuit of their imagination and their dream is catapulted 10, 1,000-fold than, generations that grew up, many decades ago. If you grew up in the 80s, if you grew up in the 70s, you will have kind of a different approach in relationship with things like technology and with your peer group. It extends beyond. And so how do you deal with the millennial generation that seems to be in this very hyper self-absorbed bubble? Basically, they're, instead of listening to you as an authority, a parent, someone who's looking out for their well-being, you feel that they're always tuning into their friends, their device, their social media. You have you feel this real gulf, in between the two of you. And it's a very particular situation. You might want to call them the indigo children. There's been studies that were started back in the 60s to look at the new generation and some of their qualities and their generational mission. Each generation does have kind of like their own tea party, their own vibe, their own legacy, what, was a hallmark of their generation or what they looked up to, who they aspired to. So especially now, with the advent of, the texting and the pictures, and that everybody has, the young millennials are oftentimes, toting around a phone, and, Generation Z, since they were 2 or 3, depending on when their parents first gave them a tablet or a phone. So they're very, very fast. They're very sort of in what a lot of people might feel as a narrow-mindedness. And to that, a lot of people feel that they're unreachable, that they just can't communicate with them because their friends have taken the place of family, or their friends have taken the place of grandparents. Their device and their friends have taken the place of meeting certain expectations that you need to do in person. And, they have an easy escape. I mean, they can just go right to their phone. They can go to their internet. They can put their headphones on. And they become very astute at blocking people out. So it becomes very difficult to communicate with the millennial generation, especially those people who have a propensity or a potential to be very self-absorbed to begin with. And so you might find it difficult to get a word in edgewise. But realize that these individuals, I feel, they're also in the midst of a lot of pressure. But because of social media, because of Facebook, because of always, a lot of people just represent themselves through the pictures that they might take, hours to prepare, or hundreds of other pictures that didn't get into the Facebook that give the real deal. Many millennials will tell you it's a very high maintenance lifestyle for them. And a lot of them struggle with it, but it's a peer pressure. And it's kind of like if you are not all over the technology, I kind of feel that the peers, the millennials kind of look down on each other. So it exerts a real group think and then a peer pressure, which is the norm for them. They are growing to be autonomous and individual. They have that mindset, some more strong than others. So it might feel like a very rebellious child, or it's very difficult to communicate in the same language. So you have to realize that, yes, dealing with the millennial generation, those people who are very self-absorbed, perhaps very secretive. They have several Facebook accounts, one that's for the family, one that's for their friends. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for millennials to be covert and sort of hide certain things from the world, because they have such a public persona, and then the personal, and realize that the narcissist, I don't want to use that word. I never liked that word. But instead, of admitting that they're feeling lost, that they're having trouble, they're overwhelmed or anxious, they oftentimes don't want to, communicate this. They want to always appear as if. And they can, have body image issues, all sorts of issues that come up that are unique to their generation. So you do have to have a degree of understanding where they're coming from, and then also that they have a specific pace. So you might feel very ineffectual with them. So realizing that, communicating with the millennial, it's important to realize that the phone has its place, but also it's important to get off of your phone. Remember the MTV, acoustic set, when all of a sudden, you'd hear these bands that were always on electric and play acoustic, and you're like, wow, we saw a new side of them. It's kind of like the same way with a device. It's like, let's go acoustic. Let's just go on a conversation without the distraction of the phone, because they become very distracted, and then they can develop this sort of superficial or very sort of fantasy, like existence, which oftentimes is not, that other generations feel that they can connect on. The how they communicate, their lingo, their language. So you might need to not only compromise, but realize what is the cause of this big gulf, especially if, they're not sort of sharing with you. They want to appear bigger. They want to appear responsible. They want to appear privileged. They want to appear, great to their friends. So they have a lot of this peer pressure. And so oftentimes, to cover this up, they'll act as if they know everything. It's very difficult then, because they're not, if, you're dealing with a youngster with this mindset, then they're oftentimes are not very receptive to communication. They're not receptive to sort of old school, let's have lunch and without our devices, or like, let's go on a walk without taking selfies, or let's go shopping without you having to go over and text somebody. It becomes a real sort of, it becomes a real rift, and people can feel very distant from the millennial children, but this is, how they have discovered their life, but yet, you do oftentimes feel lost in your perspective, or lost in your influence or effect to get, a seed planted, to have, assist them in where you feel that they are struggling, or just to make plans. And so they have a natural way to sort of keep this, certain secrets secretive. So that can become the problem. So you have to work on trust, and you have to work on perception. They want to come across as the know-it-all, and that is empowering to them. They don't want to give their power away. They want to be their own adults. So knowing that to be the case, and having empathy and compassion, so understanding that and allowing them to succeed, yes, but they also do have to be respectful to people. There needs to be structure and boundaries to how their device is used, and so that you can, get in a little bit of a new normal in the relationship. You might have to, if you're in the older generation and you don't have a smartphone, you might benefit from getting a smartphone. It doesn't have to be a newer model, but sending pictures, fun pictures that you have of yourself or the family to them, or getting a smartphone and getting out your actual picture books and taking pictures of them and then sending them to this millennial so that they have a photo, history, like a photo log of part of their family, and know that it'll grow in appreciation. But you have to realize that, they are on a different jet set, on a different sort of dimension, if you will. Oftentimes with a generational mission or cause that's bigger than, just them. They might feel a calling, but the problem is that there can be narcissistic abuse towards their older family members or at their workplace, where they're on their phone and they're hiding their phone so that they can text and do all these different things. It does become an addiction. So if you, want to get some insight, read or listen to some of the earlier founders of Facebook and how they wanted it to be addictive, so that people would spend a lot of time on their platform. So realize that, you can also learn a little bit more about technology and its uses, and also, not come across as negative, but, putting some realistic and understanding that people need to be able to relate to each other on a personal level, with eye contact, with, shaking hands, hugging, and it's not just all, set up in their phone. So it's not that to ask the question, to what extent am I part of the problem? It's to ask yourself, to what extent can I be part of the solution in building bridges? So not saying that you have to, that they have to assimilate to you, but there has to be some assimilation together with the millennials. And so, I'm talking about, using the device in a positive way that you feel that you're bridging in the connection. Not that you have to use the millennial lingo, but showing, them that you are reaching out in a way that they can appreciate, will help, and, realize that they are oftentimes feeling lost or overwhelmed despite all the pictures of their trips, the pictures in the bathroom with all the guys smiling or whatever it is. Realize that they have their own right and sort of their group. So knowing that to be the case doesn't mean that you have to lose a handle on the relationship. But, recognizing that the large bulk of communication is body language and tone, and presence. And so, you're missing all that when you're only texting. And I know that there's a lot of, video chat and FaceTime and things like that. But you have to be careful that that doesn't start sort of being a surrogate relationship that, is not based on the authentic, the real, and value-added conversation that you can have one-on-one. And, realizing that, a lot of the times maybe they don't have a lot of time because they're very busy. They do spend a lot of time on music or whatever it is that they're searching in. So, knowing their schedule and knowing their case, finding times that you can, schedule a phone call or a get together, and, asking, hey, is it okay if we, limit the device for a little bit and just go out and enjoy the birds? Just go out and enjoy some ice cream. Just go out and enjoy the sun. And something of this nature, so you can reach out and be proactive as the adult. But yes, the millennials have a way to they can become sort of reclusive into their own world that you don't ever get to see, because it feels oftentimes very disrespectful. And so look at some of the barriers that are coming up in between and see if you can create a bridge instead of a barrier. And we'll do more videos on this because I think it's a source of a lot of pain for a lot of family members, and especially they've had challenges at work where, or in their schoolwork where, they're doing too much play on their phone or video games and not doing and being disciplined. So you have to understand and have those conversations, and let them know, hey, this will be good for you. A change of scenery, take a break, take a breather, and getting to know them, and their personal struggles, even just asking them. I think that they would be very, being a millennial, what are the biggest pressures you have right now? And I'm sure, if you kind of cater to that narcissist side, they will more than be happy to share with you because they will feel special. And the millennial generation, I really think that they are a special group. They've been tasked with a specific cause to create a lot of change and tumult, but that is our next generation. That's the evolution of creation and humanity. And it's about time from the sensitivity of Generation Z to, the climate change, things that, really need attention. And they're going to inherit a lot of this aftermath. So they are in the right place to have concern and care. So realize that. And if there's a conflict of needs, a conflict of interest, begin to then build the bridge so it doesn't feel, such a big riff or gaffe, and then you can hold your space with faith, but realize you might have to do a little bit of, just sort of, I don't want to say assimilate into their culture, but show that, you're supportive of them and understanding, even if they've been mean or rotten to you or selfish, and opening up that understanding will help you with a new approach where you're not, pushing them away. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Realize that, we're all learning. We all have a desire to be acknowledged and validated and have joy and the positive. And it's, people's feelings can get very hurt and very traumatized when they are ignored, especially, by a device, where you're not, you're not looking at them, because it sends a message that you are not important. So the millennials also need to understand that oftentimes if you're being ignored, this is interpreted as I'm unlovable and I'm rejected. And so it elicits that fight or flight. So realize that and studies have been done to show this, that when you feel, when you're ignored, that your subconscious starts drawing a lot of inferences and meaning from this. So realize that, to what extent you have assigned a specific meaning, and then be able to challenge that, and rise up and become empowered. You can do this. You've got this. We'll talk about this more. I think it's a great topic. Have a beautiful day.